Okay, so you walk into a room you've never been in before, but you get this totally unshakable feeling that you have. You know this exact conversation, this precise moment. It's all happened before. Well, that weird, fleeting feeling, that's what we're talking about today. Déjà vu.
I mean, it's one of the most common, but also one of the most bizarre things our minds can do. So, what is actually going on in your brain when that happens? Well, that feeling has a name, of course: déjà vu. It's French for already seen, which, you gotta admit, is the perfect way to describe it. It's that strange, almost ghostly feeling that a brand new moment is somehow an old memory.
For like centuries, this whole experience was just wrapped up in mystery. People chalked it up to everything from past lives to psychic powers, but the real explanation, it's not so mystical. It's actually found in the fascinating and sometimes glitchy mechanics of your own brain.
So yeah, what everyone used to think of as, a paranormal event is now something scientists see as a window into how our memory and perception really work. It kind of shows us that even a tiny little hiccup in our brain system can create this really profound and bizarre experience. All right, so to really get to the bottom of déjà vu, we have to talk about how your memory works first. And here's the thing, it probably doesn't work the way you think it does. Deep inside your brain, in an area called the temporal lobe, there's this small but super important part called the hippocampus. You can think of it as the brain's memory gatekeeper. It's the part that decides which of your experiences today are actually important enough to save for later. And this is where your brain is completely different from a computer. A computer saves a perfect file, right? A perfect copy. Your brain, well, it's more like a storyteller. Every single time you remember something, you're not just playing back a recording. You are actively rebuilding that memory from all these scattered pieces of information. It's a creative process, and, sometimes it gets a little flawed. And that brings us right to the main scientific idea. Déjà vu is basically just a brief, totally harmless timing error in this super complex memory system of yours. It's a moment where the brain's filing system just gets its wires crossed. So, let's look at how. The first big theory is called dual processing, and it basically suggests that a teeny tiny delay in how your brain is processing information can create this really powerful illusion. Okay, so imagine your brain is running two programs at the exact same time. One program is just experiencing the now, taking in all the sights and sounds. The other program is constantly scanning your memories to see if any of this stuff is familiar. Now, normally they're perfectly in sync, but what if there's a tiny lag? We're talking milliseconds. If the memory checking part gets the information just a split second before the now part, your brain goes, whoa, wait a second, I've already seen this, and it accidentally slaps an old memory label on a brand new experience. What if it isn't a timing glitch? There's a second major theory that says it's not about when we process things, but how. This whole idea is based on the difference between two types of remembering: just feeling that something is familiar and actually being able to recall a specific memory. Turns out, they are not the same thing at all. Psychologists have a great name for this. They call it the butcher on the bus phenomenon. Picture this. You see a guy on the bus, and he looks so familiar, but you just cannot figure out from where. You have this strong feeling that you know him, but you can't place him. Then, later, you see him behind the counter at the butcher shop, and it all clicks into place. You had the feeling of familiarity, but you were missing the context to actually recall the memory. This tells us that your brain has two different memory systems. One is a super fast gut feeling system that just gives you that sense of, hey, I recognize that. The other system is slower, more detailed, and it searches for the specifics, the why and the where of the memory. So déjà vu could just be a moment when that fast familiarity circuit fires off all by itself, but the slower recall system doesn't quite catch up in time. So your brain is basically sending you this really strong signal that says, this is familiar. This is totally familiar. But then it comes up completely empty when it tries to find the actual memory to go with that feeling. It's a sense of recognition with no source. Now, because this all feels so weird when it happens, a lot of people ask the same question. Is this just a harmless little brain glitch, or is this something I should be worried about? Okay, let me just put your mind at ease. For the vast, vast majority of us, the answer is yes, it is completely normal. Studies show that about 2/3 of all healthy people experience déjà vu at some point. It's just a common quirk of a healthy brain.
In fact, you're actually more likely to have it happen under certain conditions, like when your brain is tired, when you're stressed out, or when you're processing a ton of new information, like when you're traveling. That's when these little memory misfires are more likely to pop up. Now, it is important to mention this. Very frequent, very intense déjà vu can be a symptom of a specific neurological condition called temporal lobe epilepsy. And actually, it was by observing patients with this condition that neuroscientists first figured out that the temporal lobes and the hippocampus were ground zero for this strange feeling.
So when we put all of this together, what's the big takeaway here? It might not be a sneak peek into a past life, but honestly, it might be something even more fascinating than that.
At the end of the day, déjà vu is kind of a beautiful misfire. It's not a sign that the universe is broken or repeating itself. It's just a tiny little timing error in your brain's incredibly complex memory-checking system. And in a way, it's actually a sign that the system is working. It's fact-checking your reality so constantly that every once in a while, it makes a tiny, fascinating mistake. And the reason it feels so weird, so emotionally charged, is because it triggers the same parts of our brain that are tied to our intuition and that deep sense of recognition. It really is like a subtle wink from your own memory, a little moment where your brain confuses the present with the past. And it's a powerful reminder that our sense of time and memory is, maybe, a lot more fragile than we think.